Welcome to the Board Game Snobs podcast. Critically harsh reviews with a touch of class.
Go.
Hello, people of the world. This is Board Game Snobs, and this is your favorite snob, Enrique.
I like how you had to pause to think of your name.
Long into giving
He's like, what is my name?
Searching.
Who am I?
Searching.
No, dramatic
Searching.
pause.
That was not a
It was a
dramatic
dramatic
pause.
pause.
What's your idea of a dramatic pause?
Just like when you're getting into for a build-up.
A hound dog performing Shakespeare.
I knew him, Rufus. And then
Is Enrique done?
that was the worst intro.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well,
Hey, wait.
what?
Are you a fan of the Board Game Snobs? Would you like to wear our clothing?
Literally,
Well, not my clothing.
it is our clothing.
Not my. they.
It's technically our
Are you
clothing.
4XL? You can wear my clothing.
I'll send you a pair of khakis.
Would you like to have a shirt? Are you a fanatic of the Board Game Snobs? You can have t-shirts now from sirmeeple.com. That's right. Check out sirmeeple.com. If you're not a fan of the show, A, you probably wouldn't be listening. Or maybe this is your first time listening and you're fixing to be a fan.
You're lacking habiliments.
You're fixing to get addicted, like most of Northeast Texas, to methamphetamine.
You need a shirt.
You can say, I support the snobs by wearing our shirts. Go to sirmeeple.com, look under creators. That's where we're at. sirmeeple.com.
That was a really good commercial for Sir Meeple.
You're welcome. Nathan?
I can't remember.
Is that his name?
I don't know. I feel bad because at some point in time, like 6 months ago, he contacted us saying, can I put your name on some shirts and sell them? And I was like, no, don't. And then now, like,
Tim. Hey,
Tim.
sorry, Tim.
Tim.
Kulinich.
That's not how you pronounce that.
And
I asked him.
That's not how you say that.
Kulinich.
That doesn't sound generic.
No, I asked for his phonetic spelling. Kulinich.
Kolinich?
Kulinich.
This is for the email episode.
Oh, yeah.
This episode.
And interview.
Yes, this interview that I did. Hang on, let me.
Although I don't know how the interview sounds because I wasn't there, and Jerry says the microphone was blowing up, so who knows?
The interview went wild. It was off the chain. Max Robin.
Maximum Robin.
Maximus Robinness.
I am at 100% Robin.
Of
We need Robin. Where's he at? I'm here. We need all of you, Robin. I am at Max Robin. I wanted you to do that with that person.
I couldn't do it.
You didn't?
No,
do it?
didn't.
Did you ask him if his Max was short for maximum?
I did, and we have an interesting conversation regarding that. I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But Max Robin, real name pending, is the designer of Novolux and Impendium, which is on Kickstarter right now. And you need to go on there and look at it because it has a solo version and it looks actually really good. But the interview was mainly about how you would bring a game onto Kickstarter and design a game and produce a game and so forth. And he's very nice, despite the fact that he has several different belts of varying colors in martial arts. He knows how to choke people. There's a lot of us talking about choking people.
Oh.
The
old chokeout.
the old chokeout. And it got, Max was very nice.
When would you need to choke somebody out?
Well, yeah. You what if you need to subdue somebody without hitting them? You know, have you ever punched somebody? You've never punched
Never in my
somebody.
life. I'm a man of love and peace.
Well, as somebody who used to box on an amateur level, I could tell you, punching somebody.
Of course you did.
Punching somebody is hard.
Oh my God.
Really?
Is there anything you haven't done?
I asked myself that question.
Just today, Jerry's regaling my wife with how he wooed his wife, Jennifer, and proceeds to say about on their first date, a Suburban went off the road, was in a lake, you're on top of it, smashing out the window, saving lives. Are you the Rock?
No, The Rock is fictional.
Oh, no. Your life is just made up.
No, it's not. I happen to be where things.
Where was the Suburban? Did you receive a car or did you drive upon a car just floating in the lake?
I went and picked up my girlfriend to be.
Ex-girlfriend. Now she's your wife.
And we were driving down the highway and this idiot passed us. And I made comment.
How dare he pass you?
About how fast he was driving. He proceeded to go off the road. He
did it in front of you?
Yes. Yeah, what an idiot. He went off the road.
How embarrassing.
Went through a fence.
He's going off the road. He was going, this is embarrassing.
I shouldn't have. I hope nobody sees this.
I was exceeding the speed limit. This was embarrassing.
He went through a fence, hit a cow, and then went off into a pond, and he hit his head on the windshield. And he was his
He hit a cow too?
Yes.
Did the cow make it?
Yes.
Okay.
I checked it. I thought it was utterly destroyed.
Of course you did.
The cow was like, I live.
Thank you, Enrique. Thank you for that.
When an unstoppable force meets an immovable object.
I then proceed to make sure and pull his half-conscious self out of the vehicle that was halfway submerged in the pond. Then went back to my vehicle, went to Chili's and drank 2 lemon drop martinis. Date number 1.
Are you a hero?
Yes, I am.
Excellent.
Thank you, Brian Regan. Thank you for making me listen to yet another stupid skit of Brian Regan.
And now, for your pleasure, a board game review.
So, Hansa Teutonica has been around for a long time. It's one of those evergreen Pegasus Spiel.
Yeah.
It's a designer that I am not familiar with. I think it must have been one of those old-timey designers. Andre Steeding?
Yes, Steeding.
Okay, that's what I could tell from there. So, not a well-known designer that I'm aware of, but perhaps he's done other things. I need to look him up. It's a 3 to 5 player game. We have the Hansa Teutonica, the big box, which just came out here a few months back. It's got a bunch of other extra little things, maps and so forth. This is a very dry, drab-looking Euro with cubes and little bits and wooden pieces and your little player board that I wish was double layered. That you are going out and placing these cubes on routes in between cities, trying to build routes and trying to have and establish essentially markets in these cities.
Say established.
Establish?
Okay.
What'd I say?
Sounds like you're saying established.
I probably am. I add X's to thing. I'm like triple X. So in Hansa Teutonica, as you're moving your little cubes around, basically trying to not only manage your actions, but manage what limited resources there are in a game, which are just basically your tradesmen that you're placing out there. This game is designed to be very interactive amongst players, as well as not violent, but purposely you're getting in everybody's way. And so the way that this game works as a route builder, which I do not particularly like route builders. I think route building, this is kind of like akin to, I don't want to say Ticket to Ride, something similar where you're placing these cubes out and there might be 4 or 5 spaces in between towns. And as on your turn, you can place 1 cube. Or on your turn, you might be able to move a certain number of cubes around the board. And after you've got all your cubes lined up like a little trail in between 2 cities, you can then establish a trade route and be able to put a market, put one of your cubes into that city. This is a very dumbed down version of the rules, and I don't want to get too in depth on it because this is really a game that you really have to just see it played to really understand it. But ideally, with your player board, you're also being able to upgrade your actions, like how many actions you can take per turn and in-game scoring things of that nature. The idea of the game, though, is to not telegraph what your move is to the other players. Because to win and to really be competitive in this game, you have to interact with other players. You have to be mean. You purposely have to put your pieces out there where other players are at to try to block them, which will cost them resources to move your pieces out of the way, and at the same time, be able to know where you want to go and try to slyly put your pieces out where they need to be without everybody seeing what you're about to do. Hansa Teutonica is a fighting Euro, I think I would call it. It's not as dry and bland as others in terms of players just doing their own thing, but rather you are interacting the entire time. As this is a mean area control route building game, and I think this is one of the finest games I think I've ever played. Enrique?
I agree.
Okay. On a scale, okay, what would you rate it? On a scale of 1 to 10.
I would give it a 9. A 9 at least.
It's pretty high. Well, you're generous.
Same as Moonrakers.
He's generous.
Moonrakers, Dune Imperium, or Hansa Teutonica? Rank them 1, 2, and 3, Enrique.
And what was the other one? It was
Moonrakers,
Dune,
Hansa.
How to remember
The last 3 games we played.
Yeah, no, just how to remember Dune real quick.
Yeah, it's right there, Freddie.
Yeah, sorry.
You can do it.
Anxiously awaiting your response.
Yeah. So am I ranking them?
No, just give us which one do you like the best?
Your favorite?
Moonrakers.
You like Moonrakers the best.
Moonrakers.
What's
the
your
best.
second out of those 3?
Dune, and then
Hansa.
Teutonica.
Okay, I'll give you that. Gabbies.
I'm going to have to go Hansa number 1, Dune number 2, Moonrakers number 3. Of course, Moonrakers is primarily a negotiation game. Everybody knows I can't stand negotiation games. I suck at them. Hansa Teutonica is like the player board in front of you is scythe-like in the fact that you can upgrade it, and it gives you these things by moving them off of your board. And then there's a plethora of things out on the main game board that you can either upgrade or establish yourself in these townships or cities, whatever you want to call it. There's a myriad of ways you can earn victory points. I wouldn't call it a point salad, but there's a lot of different ways to earn points off of your player board and the main board. Enrique used nose breathe. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. It's just you breathing. Hold on. Continue on. It's Enrique. Like I shut him down, it stops.
It's that microphone.
It's that microphone is super sensitive. If you want to say something, let me know. I'll turn you up.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it.
But Hansa Teutonica, I love it. It's vicious. There's a lot of back and forth. You can bump people out. But even when you bump them out of like they might have a plan of what they want to do and you can mess up their plan. But even when you mess up their plan, it's kind of a bonus because then they can do something else with the pieces that they meant to do that plan with on the player board. It's a route building. It's worker placement in a way. It's also area control, and that player board is really, really nice because all of the moves you do in the game are on that player board. It tells you the actions. To me, it's very clear cut. The scoring can get a little, like you might have to go the rule several times to figure out scoring. But other than that, I'm a fan of that player board. Like that player board telling you all of your actions, and then you upgrading that. And as you upgrade it, it increases your actions, but also gives you more moves to make. That player board is super, super smooth to me.
I think a lot of people are low-key attached to player boards. Like, I think if people were really honest with themselves, that with Scythe, it's not just the artwork and the components, it's that player board. Board, that thing of being able to move something around that's totally yours. I'm shocked that the past 3 games that we have played, Dune, Hansa Teutonica, and Moonrakers, for me, all 3 of these games are hits and are games that I will have to put on when we do our top 10. That I will have to include them on this list. They are all potential top 10 games for me. Like they're in the running.
I was going to say along a similar line, all 3 of them we have played immediately after themselves.
Which is rare for us, because generally after we play a game one time, even if we really enjoyed it, we will stop and kind of discuss it and we're done with it. both Hansa Teutonica and Dune and Moonrakers, they're each of them offered something incredibly different. And I'm referring to the past 2 podcasts that we've done, these games that we featured. If I had to rank them, they are completely different monsters. Dune, to me, is more of an Ameritrash game. It has that deck building style, the worker placement, the player interaction. It's got a little. The theme is very dry because there's nothing really. It's just artwork. Nothing really says it's Dune. There's not a whole lot.
There's not a whole lot of interaction other than the combat.
Right, and you're really interacting by clogging up the workers' spaces. Hansa Teutonica which makes Dune kind of a weird game to me, because you are interacting and getting in each other's way, much like a Euro. Whereas Hansa Teutonica very much looks like a Euro, but there is a lot of violence going on in this game.
Mm-hmm.
You are in each other's business, constantly pushing each other around and trying to block each other. The same is true with Moonrakers. It's kind of a weird duck because it is a negotiation game, which I often take economic and negotiation games out of Ameritrash and Euro categories. I kind of think they're their own monster. But although it is a negotiation game, that deck building aspect of it is very entertaining and a large part of the game.
That's why I sent you this tweet. I can't remember who said it. What was the main thing of the tweet was, as big as board gaming is getting and as many types of games come into the market, this person was like saying they can see that people will drift towards certain genres, and that while board gaming is a broad spectrum, people can easily go into certain genres and like become, and I could see what they were saying. Like, okay, I'm really into 18xx. I'm really into wargaming. I'm really into light card games. I'm really into worker placement. I'm guessing. But games like this make that difficult for me because there's such a merging of so many different mechanisms. It's hard to, if you're just into the standard, especially Euro, I would say, tabletop gaming, I guess that would be a genre. I guess I'm saying it right now. But even at that, like, there's so many different genres of games that are getting mixed and so many different mechanisms that are getting combined. It's hard for me. I don't know what I would be in. I'm into this. I'm into Moonrakers, Dune, Hansa Teutonica.
Well, technically, you're an omnigamer is the definition.
Okay, sure. So, I'm an omnigamer. But I found that to be an interesting discussion, because even like with movies and with everything, like within this certain media, you can have people that separate off into these sub-genres. Like, I'm really into this. I'm really into that. I'm really into anime. I'm really into noir. I'm really into whatever you might say with movies. In board gaming, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of 18xx. There's a lot of war gamers. There's a lot of, negotiation. I don't know. Deck building. I don't know. But
you're right. You don't know.
I don't know.
So
I'm into all of it.
And I think that you gain a lot from not isolating yourself out and just playing one type of game. And I think Hansa Teutonica, although it's an older game, been kind of redone a little bit to kind of, spice it up and bring
Some people say it's the greatest Euro of all time. Some people say.
There are a lot of people who say it's the greatest Euro of all time. I would have to, man.
What does Hansa Teutonica even mean?
It's a merchant guild, Lower Germany, back in medieval times. It means
I'm a high German guy.
Yeah, it's just a group of merchants. But Hansa Teutonica, I think if you are a Eurogamer, if I had to rank those three, I'll go back to what I was saying. To me, Dune is more versatile with the worker placement, the deck building, and there is a solo in it. I think that Dune is the better game in terms of that, like having this very interesting
I think
replayability.
I think Dune does, I forget the word, from 1 to 4.
It scales well.
I think Dune scales a lot better.
Well, I don't think it scales very well just from 2. Like I wouldn't want to play a 2-player.
I have.
You've not played it.
I feel like we've played Dune 2-player.
And hated it.
I feel something's changed though.
I know.
Because I played it solo. It's different.
No, it's not.
We need to play it 2-player. Again.
Nah. So like Hansa Teutonica is also not 2-player. It's the 3 to 5. But
Really?
Yeah, Hansa Teutonica is not a 2-player game. And it's very interesting how the game of Hansa Teutonica kind of plays out with your moving the pieces about. It's very in your face. So I think Dune gives it an edge. If someone come up to me and held up those 3 games, Moonraker, Hansa, and Dune, and said, which one am I going to buy? Overall, I think I'd say Dune. If you're an obvious Euro player that does not mind, who's looking for something like really pure area control, really cerebral, I would say Hansa Teutonica. If you're a party gamer and you like to have negotiation and deck building and more, I mean, yeah, Moonrakers is just hard to beat. I mean, all 3 of them are going onto the list of my top 10. I'm going to have to sort out and see where they land. But man, Hansa Teutonica blew me away. I was shocked by how much I liked this game. I read the rule book, which I was not impressed with. I was not impressed with the artwork. I was not impressed particularly with the components, the flat player boards.
It's very generic.
It's very generic. A lot of the icons were iconology. I keep saying iconology, but I mean to say
Iconography.
Iconography does not look.
We've received many an email about your incorrect usage of terms.
All right, making sure they understand.
We're not worshiping icons.
I can't stand it.
Iconology.
But yeah, it's Hansa Teutonica gets the nod for me. It's amazing.
You know what? Now that you say that, I'm going to have to veer back to Dune. I'm going to flip-flop right now. Dune's my number 1.
You think
because it goes from 1 to 4 much better. I think when we played that 2-player game with the bot, we did something wrong because I've played with solo several times. I've enjoyed it very much solo. The AI works very smoothly. We did something wrong. I don't know what. I can't go back in time and figure it out. Hansa Teutonica, though. Tutankhamun. Pharaoh.
Yes.
Egypt. Hansa Teutonica is very good. At 3-player, don't know. What does it go to? 5?
5.
I would not want to play this at 5-player.
I would.
I would not want to play this at 5-player. I'd get irritated. I would get blocked off too much.
Yeah. This is part of the game.
No, I don't want that.
No, I think
I like 3 because I think it's enough of interference, but at the same time, it's quick. I don't want to wait for 4 freaking other players. This game has some analysis paralysis because there's a lot of choices out there. While the actions you choose, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 actions you can choose. Sure, understandable. But once the game gets going and those townships start getting established, there's a lot that goes into thinking, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? I know
what you're talking about.
If I had to wait for 4 other people to make up their mind, I wouldn't want to play this game.
No, this game was blazing fast at 3 players. I mean, blazing fast.
Not really.
Players. Yes, it was.
No,
it timed it. It was blazing fast.
I'm not blazing.
At 3 players. We played that second game.
Okay, Enrique's agreeing. Okay, so Enrique's agreeing with you. So I guess. Hold on, wait. Go ahead.
Because it was fast, because the moves themselves aren't that complicated.
If you do the two primary actions of 1, 2, 3, I'm placing 3 cubes on the board. Yes, that's fast.
We played a 3-player game of Hansa Teutonica
and we played it wrong.
We played it wrong.
Yeah, we played it wrong. We played it wrong the first round ago.
We played it wrong the second time as well.
Yeah,
because we didn't know that one
because
thing
we
was
understood the game itself.
But
I can see where it would increase upon knowledge, but still, I'm saying for me myself, I wouldn't want to wait for 4 other people to take their turns for me to take my turn in Hansa Teutonica. I love it at 3. It's quick. It's fast. I wouldn't want to wait for a 5-player game.
I'd be interested in playing it just to see how it works out. It purports to be an 1.5-hour game. I highly suspect with 5 players, it is an 1.5-hour game, and I think that is a sweet spot for me. An hour and a half. A 2-hour game of something gets a little long, unless it's more of an epic, more engaging game. But Hansa Teutonica, to me, for our fans, if you have played other recommendations of ours, such as...
And if you're a fan, you'll buy a shirt from sirmeeple.com.
As like Barony. Barony's one that we have talked about for a long time. Hansa Teutonica, to me, has a very similar feel to me, where you are... Every move you make has to be calculated to a point to where you are trying to maximize each and every turn. And there are some epic moves that can be made. And it seems like the game is about to end very quickly. It's like that last end game, like you can tell someone is about to end this game. Someone's about to end this game. And you're trying your best to get your objective done, whatever it might be. I just think Hansa Teutonica is an amazing game.
It is. I agree. Especially for as old as it... When did it come out?
It's been... I forget it. But it's an evergreen. It's an evergreen.
Has it been 1 week?
It's been more than that. But yeah, Hansa Teutonica is a great game. I'm impressed with it. Anybody who's a Euro player should play it. If you like this area control, get past some of the artwork and some of the components and some of the rule book kind of being a pain, you will certainly enjoy it if you had 3 players.
Great game. Great game.
Wonderful game.
Oh, okay. Approved by the Board Game Snobs.
You're listening to the Board Game Snobs podcast. You have chosen wisely. And now, letters from our adoring fans and hate mail from our adversaries.
Patrick Foster says, this is his top 5. I'm enjoying God of War on PlayStation right now. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I know what that is. Enrique, what's God of War? Besides a really good Nicolas Cage movie.
Isn't Mars the God of War?
It depends on which one he's referring to. There's the PlayStation 2 versions or the new PlayStation 4 version.
Okay. Let's see. Legacy of Dragonholt. So that's a board game. I recognize that. He says it's really well done and it tells an interesting story. I've been wanting to play that. That's like a sort of like an RPG. I need to look that up. I guess his number 3, he put probably There Will Be Blood. Is that the prequel to There Will Be Blood? There might be.
That was his threat.
There might be some bleeding. There's possibility of bruising.
Perhaps.
Be conscious of the contusions.
Conscious of the contusions.
All right, number 4, it's a game. All right, he's describing a game by its box cover.
Okay.
It's a game with lots of greens and blues that has a monster under a boat in the foreground and some mountains in the background. That's that Sleeping Giants game.
Oh.
That's Lion Lockett. And number 5, he just puts King Dominoes with my in-laws. So I guess he'd been playing King Domino. I played Queen Domino with my wife. I don't like Queen Domino.
Did you finish that My City?
Almost. We're almost done with it. It's excellent for what it is.
Shots fired.
Jeff Melema. That's a cancer. Melanoma. Jeff
He's
Melema.
never heard that before neither.
I'm tearing it up. Let's see. He's from Minnesota.
Well, let's sit the state of 10,000 likes.
How can I view your profiles on BGG? Mine is Baker ID 2000, and you can look at my profile. It's not actually my profile. Did I email
It's
you
like
that?
the picture of the side of your face.
Yeah, it's like, let's see. Speaking of worker placements, have you guys played I can't say that. Rajas of the Ganges?
That's all I know how to say it.
I had that once, took antibiotics for it. It's number 3 of my all-time. I've seen it, been wanting to play it. The art kind of put me off. It was kind of psychedelic. Chris Miller from sunny Salvador. El Salvador. The Salvador.
Salvador.
El. That means the, doesn't it?
The Salvation.
The Salvation. The Salvation.
I don't know.
He is from
Salvador. Enrique, what's Salvador stand for?
I don't know.
He doesn't know.
I'm only half.
So anyways,
Me as well.
He says that this really sticks in his craw, the way that I rate games. Because I was talking about this, and I said...
The way you rate games makes me irate.
So Jerry maintains that he rates his games pretty hard. I can respect that. But if you're rating a large chunk of your games of average or lower, then you really stink at picking out your games.
This is a conversation from several podcasts ago.
So like when I said that my average was like 5.5, he says...
Salvador means savior, by the way.
These are the games I chose to buy. He looks at rule books, investigates them, buys them, so forth and so on. Anyways, so I said I was going to respond, so thus I shall respond. And I did look at his BGG profile and look at his ratings. A lot of these games that we buy and play are for the podcast, so that we end up playing games we end up buying games that we necessarily would not have otherwise, I would say. Like, there's no way certain games that I would have purchased in the past.
Games that are hot.
Yeah. So we end up, so that's why I rate games very average, is because most of these games are very, very, very average.
And oftentimes I just buy games on a whim.
Yes, you do. You do a lot of whim buying, and that rarely works out. Who's DL? Is this Hughley? No, this is from Australia.
Another Australian listener.
He lives 2 hours south near Shell Harbor. My favorite board game is the vintage game, The Game of Nations, simply for the fact that no one else likes it. I looked it up. There's not that many. I didn't understand it. He also says, P.S., Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is one of my all-time favorite films.
We have a listener on, we have several new YouTube listeners. Roughneck Penny. He said he's proof that there are black people in Canada.
Roughneck Penny?
Roughneck Penny.
Nice.
I don't think that's his real name.
That's probably
Roughnecks. I remember that's what the guys were called in Armageddon. The guys that were drilling for oil. Roughnecks.
I remember that the Roughnecks were also what the guys were called in Starship Troopers.
All right. So now we hope you enjoy Jerry's interview with
Max Robin.
Maximum
and his
Robin.
game Impendium and his reprint of his previous game Novolux, which are both solo and multiplayer and various. It's an interesting Kickstarter. You should check it out. I think kick it out. I think it ends in March. So check that out.
And now we'll go into that.
Okay. Well, then let's just get started. That way we can just jump into it. So this is with us is Max Robin. I say with us. Gobby's not with me this time. It's just me because he's eluded. Max, is Max your real name? Is that short for Maximilian?
I wish it was Maximilian. It's Maxwell.
Oh, like the coffee house.
Yep, exactly.
Oh. So, okay, because we had a bet going on. Gobby, my co-host, he said that your name was probably just Max. And I said, no, Max is an abbreviation. His name is probably like Maximilian or something. And I named off like 4 or 5 names that I could think of that began with MAX. And Maxwell was not one of them.
Yeah, I think Maxwell's probably the most common. But yeah, maybe like a Maximus or Maximilian. Yeah, it's not a common name these days.
I cannot believe that was like what Maximus or Marcus. I named down everything but Maxwell, the most common of them. Okay, that's interesting. All right. So that's not it's not just somebody who had poor imagination and just went with the abbreviated name.
No,
actually had a full name.
Yep, exactly. I've got an official name to get shouted when my mother is angry at me, and then what everybody else calls me.
So Maxwell, you're a designer actually, and a Kickstarter aficionados, because if you this day and age, if you have one successful Kickstarter, that's pretty good. So now you're already on your second successful Kickstarter.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're the owner, proprietor of Dragon Egg Games, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. I don't know if I'd say Kickstarter aficionado, but yes, some modest success here so far.
So first off, I'm coming at this from the standpoint of I know there's a lot of people in the board game industry, not the industry, just the hobby, that for some reason when people get to playing board games, they all decide one day that they're going to try to design a board game. Yeah. I don't know why that is and why that's like a thing for hobbyists, but like it was like I used to scuba dive, and when I first got into it, the guy that was teaching the class, and I was asking him like where to buy equipment. He says, well, everybody who takes up scuba diving eventually opens a scuba diving shop. And he says the best place to get equipment is just look for one of those shops and go to a going out of business sale, because there's no need to be owning us that many. And sure enough, that was like a thing. We all would always just, find a shop and wait for it to go out of business and then go buy them out. There's something about that particular hobby that makes people go, you know what? Everybody needs to learn to scuba dive.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the board game hobby industry is full of people with passion, and they get really, really excited about the experience of board gaming, everything that it involves, right? The people, the theme, the mechanics. And I think with anything, scuba diving included, I think the more passionate you get about it, the more you put yourself into it, the more you want to create that experience as opposed to just sort of consume the experience that other people have created for you. So I think that's probably why. I mean, everybody's got these different mechanics that they fall in love with and different themes that they fall in love with. And it's only a certain amount of time before, you start piecing together those mechanics in your head and combining them with a really cool theme that you think is sort of fresh. And, put pen to paper if you've got the time.
So why did you, let's go from the beginning here. How did you come up with the name Dragon Egg Games?
Yeah.
And your logo is of a dragon encompassed in an egg.
You got it. Exactly. Yeah. So Dragon Egg Games really kind of speaks to, what my wife and I are doing with the company. First off, the blue dragon has kind of always been the symbol of our relationship. So really kind of cool, personal touch there. But also just the egg piece of it, right? We kind of, speaking to what I just talked about, this whole concept of this untapped imagination, this untapped creativity that we want to help bring to the world, not just with our own ideas, but everyone. And, like what you were saying, everyone's got an idea. Everyone's got something really cool that they want to bring out. And so for us, we kind of think of that as this delicate, beautiful little egg that we need to help hatch, right? So for us, Dragon Egg Games was a perfect little logo to encompass that.
You've thrown me off. The blue dragon is representation of some meaning in your marriage has now got me kind of thinking, what animal is represented in mine? I don't know. That was a new thought. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Sky's the limit. I picked a fantastical creature, so, knock it out of the park, man.
Well, you don't want to have something weird like an erotic penguin or something of that nature. You got. It's like what? I mean, that's like when they're handing out logos or spirit animals. It's like the blue dragon.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Go. Maybe canvas some like high school mascots and see what sticks. There's some weird ones these days.
So, how many blue dragon tattoos do you have? To be honest?
None yet. We'll see how Impendium does.
Well, there's nothing quite shows that you're committed like that lower back tattoo.
That's right. No regrets.
So, besides board games, and I'm going to throw you off here. Now, you also jiu-jitsu or fight or something, right?
Yeah. Yep. So been super into martial arts really since I was a kid. I grew up doing taekwondo, which is all like striking, punching, kicking, that sort of thing. And more recently, the past, I'd say 1.5, 2 years, I've gotten into jiu-jitsu, which is essentially the martial arts equivalent of wrestling. You're grappling, you're trying to submit people, get them in arm bars or choke them out. And, as violent as that may sound, it's actually a really nice set of tools to have in your tool belt because, I am actually a black belt in Taekwondo, but the only way I knew how to end a fight was to, punch somebody and hurt them, right? And so it's nice to have the option to just kind of, hey, I'm going to put you to sleep real quick, walk away, and you'll wake up in, 30 seconds just fine.
Now jiu-jitsu, is that like the, there's like several different types. Is this like the Gracie jiu-jitsu or something?
Yeah, Brazilian, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Gracie lineage. Yep, exactly.
I listen to Joe Rogan, so I hear a lot about okay, that type of. That's like I've known nothing about jiu-jitsu, but I hear enough about it, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
this is the thing you can strangle people out.
That's exactly it. Strangle them, or even just kind of put them in a position where you can hold them and control them, and hey, wait till law enforcement shows up or whatever. Yeah, it's making a big comeback. Yeah, I mean, Joe's obviously made it super popular, but just even in general, something about it, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is making a big wave. So it's been cool. It's been a lot of fun.
They say there's like a technique to it. It's not just about strength. Is that the case? Like a big guy can be taken down by someone substantially small.
Totally, yeah. So like if you do a competition, they'll still put you in weight classes and everything, just like they would do in the UFC. But when we train, you'll have a 170-pound guy go up against a 215-pound guy, no problem. And it really does come down to technique. It's not. I mean, strength plays a factor, obviously. And if you have a big dude, sit on your chest, it's going to be a lot harder to get out than a small dude. But, the techniques that you're using, they're really more about the finesse and waiting for those opportunities and those openings and leveraging, pivot points on your body and their momentum against them to really control, the narrative. It's like, I think of it as chess, but with your body. It's like every move that you make has to be super planned out. You wait for the right opportunity to take advantage of a mistake that they just made, kind of thing. So I'm not going to say strength and size doesn't matter, but it can certainly be overcome with skill, which is, one thing I've noticed going up against these tiny little 150-pound black belts, and here I am, a white belt, 180 pounds. It's that 20 pounds doesn't really mean much when they can tie me up in a pretzel.
Chess with your body sounds like the expansion for Twister we've all been wanting.
Yeah, Twister, that'd be interesting. Throw a few more spots on the board to okay, now wrap your arm around their neck. See what happens.
There's your next game idea. There's right there. You can have that for free.
That's awesome.
A Twister type game that teaches basic jiu-jitsu moves.
That is not a half bad idea, Jerry. You have provided real value to my day here.
Have a mat, and then you just kind of, you put your hand here, your foot there, you wrap this around that person. That could
and that could be, okay, we're starting in this position, and then you wrestle from here.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, it might work out. All right, so we covered the jiu-jitsu because that was of course something I have to ask about. So why did you what got you into starting Dragon Egg Games? Why did you decide to start a game company during a pandemic?
Yeah, what a great question. And I asked myself the same as shipping delays and whatnot were occurring last year. Pandemic aside, I think, like I said, it's something as I was getting into the hobby, I mean, since college, it's been a very, very integral part of the experiences that I've had with my wife, with my friends, with my kids now. I think, board games are such a useful way to spend your time with other people in a really uniquely bonding way, compared to, hey, we're going to sit down and binge Netflix. I mean, yeah, we're sitting on the couch together and, kind of having the same experience, but when you're looking at the other person across the table and interacting with them, and it's just a totally different. And every board gamer listening to this knows that. They know that experience. But what we really wanted to start doing was, taking some of these ideas that we'd had, that we thought were pretty good, and some of these themes and do something with them. I'm a big believer, again, in how you spend your time in life. How much of it do you spend creating versus consuming? And however you're doing that, like you creating this podcast, trying to give something to the world, and obviously consuming is a big part of it. It helps define what you want to create. But for us, we really wanted to start creating some of those awesome experiences that we'd had and help bring people into the hobby to start generating more of those experiences for other people and their families and their friends. And so, we'd had some of these designs sort of fully baked and, playable and fun, with little hand-drawn cards and whatnot. And we wanted to try to take it to the next level and really put some art behind it, put some polish behind it, some graphic design. And so, we started doing that and getting, actual like pretty looking ish prototypes from the Game Crafter and things like that, to the point where you take that and then you take that to enough friends and family and they're like, look, this is fun. Let's put it out into the world and see if we can actually get it in front of more people. And everything just snowballs from there. There's a ton to figure out in the process of doing that. But I think everything stemming from that passion is really what's brought us to the point we are today. And again, it's modest beginnings here. We're on our kind of second major game, and learning a ton every step of the way. But I think it all kind of comes back to that passion that we had and really wanting to bring that experience to as many people as we could.
Well, why? Well, let me back up. Well, since we're discussing the design process, what was your process with designing this game? Like was this something that you just sat down in your off time and focused on it, or was this something that you worked on a set period of time? Well, how did you come? What walk me down through this?
Yeah. So we had I'll start with Novolux. Kind of had this basic idea of a theme. It all starts with theme for me, at least in my process. Like, I want to tell a story and I want the players to be a part of that story, even though, it's not this, heavy in-depth, like there's going to be a storybook component here or any, legacy or anything like that. But just the ability to, even in a short play experience, like Novolux plays in 15 minutes solo, 30 minutes with two players. Even in a short play experience that's repeatable, you're diving in, right? And so we started with this theme. I'm a huge sci-fi nerd. I love Doctor Who, Isaac Asimov, Star Wars. So started with this theme of like the end of the universe, entropy, the idea that everything is decayed and the universe is collapsing around you, and what life forms would exist at that point in the history of the universe, and what would they be doing to stay alive, or would they even care? I mean, is it all for naught kind of thing? So like really hitting some deep themes right out of the gate. And then from there, you just sort of start telling that story. So what are you doing? You're one of these aliens. What are you trying to do? Well, we're trying to stay alive. We're trying to collect everything that we need to stay alive and sustain biological life, and find new hope. Sort of, if everything collapses, what's the point of even trying to stay alive? Well, maybe there's a possibility that we outlast this. And what does that look like? And then you start, developing, okay, well, we're trying to build this contained biosphere colony, going off this Dyson sphere concept, where you're wrapping, a big construct around an actual physical star to absorb its energy and repurpose that. And so, you started layering in all of these crazy ideas and complexities. And, okay, now I want to be able to move around the universe and collect different things from different galaxies and solar systems to do all of what I just described. And then once you've got that down, you just put mechanics behind it. Okay, how do I move? I spend X. How do I get resources? I, change X to Y and how do I build my biosphere? What does that mean? Okay, well, we're going to layer in some engine building mechanics. What am I? What are these different alien factions? Okay, well, I'm going to build in some asymmetric powers to go along with it, and layer in this concept of these faction cards. And so it just kind of it builds up and it builds up and it builds up to this, honestly, too complex, and you kind of find that fine line of, okay, this is too much to think about now. And from there, that's actually a really exciting point, because then you just start, cutting things to find that really perfect balance of complexity with accessibility and replayability. Again, with our target market of, we want to bring people in, have a game that's super easy to teach, but also meaty enough for, really deep experience. And so that was Novolux, and then Impendium just sort of evolved from there, taking some of those complexities and continuing the story on as much as I could. to sort of tie in with the overall experience and sort of create this space opera saga, Star Wars-esque, tale that we're telling over multiple games. And so that's kind of where we're at now.
So, was there a particular game that inspired you to make? I know we should plug your game. Impendium is the one that's currently on Kickstarter right now, and Novolux was your previous one. So, Impendium's already funded at this moment and has funded pretty quickly, like in 3 hours, which I guess that's a Kickstarter thing. The quicker you get funded.
Yep.
But was there a particular game that kind of inspired you in your design process?
I can't point to a single one, honestly. There are a ton of games that I love, that I think all have different components of what kind of ultimately became Novolux and now Impendium. Blood Rage, I love, like sort of this dudes on the map thing where you're controlling different parts, area control. A lot of that's in Impendium, not necessarily, Novolux. I love resource management, any game where you're, trading and attacking, as part of that. So that's really the main mechanic in Novolux is trading and managing resources to get up to this point where you can build your colony. Insert any awesome resource management game, and those have been hugely influential. I love space games in general, Race for the Galaxy, Nemesis is one that I've been diving into a lot lately. And perhaps informing themes there in terms of this sort of apocalyptic sense of doom and gloom, with a little bit of hope sprinkled in. So, honestly, I can't point to a single game that's influenced any of my game designs. And I think that's just out of, being a hobby gamer for so long. I think there are so many different influences from so many different games. And, you just kind of try to take those mechanics, piece them together in a new way, and in a way that really is informed by the theme itself, and you get something special.
When it came time to actually find somebody to produce your game, you decide to self-publish rather than finding a already established publisher. Why'd you go that route? Why did you bring it to Kickstarter, or did you try to bring your game to someone else?
Yeah, we're in Minnesota, which happens to be this hotbed of game designers and awesome companies. Leader Games is out here, Adam's Apple Games, Floodgate. There's just so many awesome companies in my backyard. I started reaching out to a lot of them really more for advice on someone kind of in my shoes that had a game design idea, fairly well polished, and just kind of breaking down the numbers and honestly thinking of it from a publisher's perspective and getting some of their feedback on their journeys. People in very similar scenarios where, hey, this isn't my full-time job yet, but it's something that I really have a huge passion for and I want to pour my heart and soul into and, bring this experience to people. It just became really clear when you broke all of it down that for me to create my vision and really have the level of control that I wanted, as well as sort of the what's in it for me at the end of the day, there's only so much time I can spend on a hobby that doesn't make any money, And so as a designer, if you're not a well-established designer, it's really, really hard to break in and build any sort of a reputation. Even if you do sign a deal with a publisher, it might be 2-3 years before they take yours and put it in the, development slot. I just didn't want to wait that long and I wanted to put the pedal to the metal. So, plus, beyond just the design process, I have a huge passion for like the art and the graphic design and the feel. And I wanted to, get my chance to manage some of that and really see the process through end to end. So yeah, that's why we, kind of jumped in full tilt with Novolux.
So the artwork, so you're the artist, I guess you could say, in the game.
No. So we actually have a number of different artists that we work with. There's a main artist. And so this is like one of the early decisions that we made was, okay, what kind of budget do we have? I mean, you can get really awesome art, but that's going to be like $300 a piece. And for a game like Novolux that has, 50 plus, art pieces, and no credited design, no reputation, a little bit too much to start betting on yourself there. So we went to the drawing board and found a number of different artists. We actually went to Fiverr for a lot of it. And they, have been, there's just such an awesome pool of resources there that is willing to work with you and work with you very closely. You have to really kind of, I think, coach artists sometimes to bring your vision to life, and a lot of edits and things like that. But yeah, we actually found a primary artist on Fiverr that wanted to remain anonymous as part of these games. But we're also branching out. Like, we've got another game called Virtue coming out probably either later this year or early 2022. And, with that, we contracted James Churchill, who's like cream of the crop, super, super talented, and it's almost, the game will have more of a shot because it has his name on it, kind of thing, right? Whereas right now we're sort of betting on ourselves and our own reputation and our own customer service and our ability to run a good Kickstarter campaign. And we're seeing that now with like the returning backers, from Novolux to Impendium. So anyway, I got off track there.
Well, no, but so after you've kind of gotten the art, lined out, you've kind of got the design, you kind of know what you're looking for. How do you go about finding a manufacturer? Like, how did you go down this process of like deciding who's going to be actually producing the components and the shipping and all that?
Yeah. Yep. So we, again, kind of interviewing a lot of my publisher friends in Minnesota and people that I see as huge mentors to me. We found a couple different options for manufacturers. Kind of interviewed them, went through a few different iterations of like what kind of components can they provide, quality checks, things like that. But ultimately it comes down to your ability to work with someone. So the communication style, the ability to be responsive and be nimble and almost be part of the design process in many ways. When you think about the physical components, like with Novolux, for instance, this compact design was something really, really important for us. We wanted to have a very small box with this huge expansive experience. So Novolux is like smaller than Coup even in your hand. It's a very, very small box, but it's this massive space opera that you pull out of the box and spread across the table. So we really wanted that. Point being, we needed a partner that could not just say, okay, send us all of your specs, but work with us to say, okay, this component, if we make it 8 millimeters instead of 10 millimeters, can fit in this little section of the box. And I mean, we planned out every single millimeter of that thing to fill it right up to the top. And it's been really well received because of that. But point being, so that's kind of some of the feedback and some of the design process that we went through in figuring out the manufacturer. Boda Games, by the way, in China, if anyone's interested. And then for logistics, we went with Fun Again Logistics. Again, interviewed a couple different places. Logistics is a really, really tricky thing to solve for, especially in 2020, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we needed to figure out, okay, what percentage of our backers are going to be international? What do we envision for US? Where is the fulfillment center going to be located? And, originally we were thinking we were going to have, like one in the UK or EU and one in the US to do the customs friendly stuff. But with what we were watching happen in terms of international shipping, we actually wanted to have a lot more visibility and control than that would allow for us. do. So we decided to bring everything into a warehouse, in the US that we could, communicate with very effectively and very quickly, that we trusted. And so that was Fun Again. And then this time with Impendium, we'll be using Fun Again, as well as a similar service called ShipQuest in the UK to handle UK and EU. But it's, to your question, how do you figure out who you're going to work with? It comes down to trust. It comes down to asking a lot of questions. It comes down to talking to mentors about what they've done and who they've seen success with. And then you kind of have to make a decision and be married to it, at least for the campaign.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people the logistics of all this is lost on a lot of people who see Kickstarter or think of designing a board game, is that those are headaches. Even a well-run Kickstarter campaign, now that you've been successful, now you got to worry about how you're going to get the game to the people.
Exactly. I mean, that's logistics and manufacturing is one thing, but even before that, how do you get the game to the people? How do you get it in front of their eyes? How do you let them know that you exist? And that has been the probably biggest challenge to figure out, is building a community, hearing that feedback and adjusting on the fly. What can I incorporate? What can't I, based on the timelines that I'm trying to hit, with fulfillment. So it's there's a ton that goes into it. And when you think of like marketing and pre-marketing, building an audience, having that audience, really, really well cared for. I mean, customer service being absolute number one for us. I'd rather lose money, honestly, on a customer and have them come back for game number 2 and 3 as a result of that. And I think that's kind of just where we're at in our cycle as a company. You just have to put everything into it and kind of trust that'll show, and the work speaks for itself.
So do you find that have you had any particular headaches with the manufacturing or logistics or the Kickstarter?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, using manufacturing as an example, with Novolux, we had all of the design specs and things submitted right at the end of the campaign. And again, not bashing Boda by any means, but there's just this process of, okay, we have to go back and forth and iterate and tweak things and worry about bleed lines. And, this just, you learn so much on the fly, about graphic design, about how to put the box together, about what components fit where. And so there was a lot of that with Novolux, for instance, where, we finally got the manufacturing sample, later than we were expecting, but because we had everything lined up ahead of that, we were able to just click go on manufacturing right away. Logistics, man, that was such a nightmare last year. Getting everything manufactured was easy enough. It took a month, but then once that happens, it has to get loaded on a boat, and it's rocking on a boat for a month before it actually gets to the fulfillment partners, and then you've got to get through customs, which was like backlogged by 3 or 4 weeks. So I mean, we just barely squeaked in on time to start fulfilling in February as we had promised in the campaign. But like for me, that's a promise. Like I mean February. It's not, I think a lot of these companies kind of get used to, okay, we're delayed by 2 months. Sorry. That's almost unacceptable to me. I get that there's some unforeseen things that impact stuff, and but just dealing with a lot of that, and okay, where are we at in customs, the lack of visibility into where the games were at times in the shipping process, it keeps you up at night sometimes.
And you mentioned with like putting your face out there, the marketing aspect of trying to get attention drawn to your Kickstarter. What were some of the tactics that you found to be successful? Yeah,
absolutely. So, I think with Novolux, we really didn't have the time or the budget to do anything ahead of time. It was sort of, hey, we're going to, go on to Kickstarter and start running some ads and see what happens. We had heard plenty of horror stories about Kickstarters where, the creator goes on expecting Kickstarter to bring the audience for them. And that is, and we kind of anticipated that. So luckily we didn't just expect that. We were running ads and stuff to get some eyes on the campaign. But that is really it. It's, you need to bring your own audience or build your own audience to bring along. And so with Nova Lux, that essentially was, Facebook advertising, that was getting the game out to reviewers, to do videos, some that had bigger audiences, like we got with the Dice Tower and Tantrum House and Board Game Geek. You kind of have to make a big splash in some ways. And then from there, it's nice, again, when you can stand behind your product, deliver on time, have this awesome experience, get people to go on to Board Game Geek and tell the world about that experience. So things have felt much easier now with Impendium. And with that, we also had something to talk about in terms of pre-marketing, right? Here's game number 1. It's out. We did a print run of 1,000, which is completely, sold out before we even shipped, when you talk about retail orders as well. We had something to actually build buzz around and people that were playing the game and excited for game number 2. And then, plenty of people in the world that obviously didn't have Nova Lux that could get excited about both games at the same time. So we wanted to really leverage that and start to build this, pre-campaign buzz. So, for instance, with Nova Lux, I think going into launch day, we had 100 or so followers on the project page. And for Impendium, that was closer to 1,000, right? So much more success right out of the gates early on. And then it's all about how do you manage the campaign from there, stretch goals, things to kind of mitigate the mid-campaign slump, right? So we're in the thick of all of that right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of I have seen a lot of various Kickstarter campaigns. It seems like it doesn't matter how long the campaign is, it seems like as soon as it opens, that's when you get a outpouring of support, and then the last 48 hours is where it seems to be where all the attention is then drawn. It's like somewhere in the middle, you're just leaving the campaign open long enough to advertise, and then the last 48 hours and the first 48 hours seem to be the most important.
Exactly. And it makes sense. There's no sense of urgency. There's a sense of urgency out of the gates to be backer number, 1 to 200 or whatever. And people that have genuinely been waiting to back it. I mean, that's what I love to see, like these returning backers, hopping on the comments day one, saying great to be back. Like that camaraderie, that community you build is just so apparent. And so that's the first 48 hours to 72 hours, whatever. That's those people. And then, then you're getting in front of new people through advertisements. And throughout that time between first 48 hours and last 48 hours, you start to see project followers climbing. So people, they click the video, they click notify me before the campaign closes. And so that's really what you start to see increasing, and people that'll, want to get the updates and want to see the new stretch goals as they're unlocked. And those are then the people that you typically see come back in the last 48 hours. And that's kind of why it's got those two different spikes there. So just, you kind of have to fall back on data, understand, if I get X number of people to the page based on Google Analytics, this many people will ultimately want to back, and you work through those conversions based on, your project followers and things like that. So it's definitely nerve-wracking at this point in the campaign. You're kind of waiting in many senses, but just try to keep your sanity by watching the data and just kind of understanding the way these spikes typically happen. So
this sounds all very harrowing and very stressful, especially since this is not your full-time gig. This is just something that you do as a passion project. Do you envision in years to come of trying to turn Dragon Egg games into something much bigger?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would love to. And I think it's important to think of like a board game company in the board game industry. It's a lot more than the Kickstarter campaign, right? You've got the pledge manager, which is going to come out. You've got, retail orders. You've got, potential third-party publishing, connections that you can do internationally. So there's a lot of other ways. I think Kickstarter is a really great tool to get exposure and get the game out in front of a lot of people other than your, playtest group. So that's the piece of the puzzle that we really want to unlock is where do we take Novolux and Impendium from here and get it to people who, weren't there at the Kickstarter and don't necessarily want to wait 6 to 12 months for a game, and pre-buy it, and they just want to go and pick it up on the shelf. And I respect that, right? How do we get in front of those people? Plenty more design ideas out there, some that we've got miniatures already created for and art already made for. So yeah, I'd love for this to be a long-term thing. And really continue to grow the audience and the kind of really loyal following, the raving fans, if you will. But it just takes time, and you definitely have to find the right balance until it is the full-time gig, with the wife and kids and full-time job. There's a lot of late nights that.
At the kids. Yeah. So your wife is literally the mother of dragons.
Exactly. Yes, she is.
Okay. I see that. I see what you're doing there. Well, Max, it was nice talking with you. If you had to close it out, any advice to somebody out there who's an aspiring game designer and perhaps thinking about pulling a trigger on their own Kickstarter?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'll pay it forward here. Anybody, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to kind of talk you through specific questions that you have. But just on that thread, if there's anyone that or even admire and kind of look up to in the industry, reach out to them. These are all people, right? And they all typically are the friendliest people I've ever met, and they want you to succeed and they want to help you. But don't try to do it on your own. Find the right group that's going to help you in every facet, whether that's marketing, whether that's fulfillment, whether that's manufacturing. Again, don't try to do this on your own, and really seek advice from people that have done it. And sky's the limit.
Well, I appreciate you, Max. And I'll tag your Kickstarter in our post here to our podcast. But Impendium is your current project that's on. It's already funded, but you can also get your previous game, the Novolux, as well in this Kickstarter. And it's nice.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
And it's got a solo. I like it.
Yep, we got solo. We've got a lot of different ways to play. Co-op, competitive, semi-co-op, solo. There's a whole AI bot that we put into Impendium, so you can play with the AI player, and yeah, it's very, very replayable. So I'd highly encourage anybody who's interested in space themes and sci-fi and anything apocalyptic, check it out. I think it'd be up your alley.
I like the artwork. It's kind of got that cosmic encounter on an acid trip.
Yep. Some crazy aliens in there, that's for sure.
Did this artwork, are these visions that you saw as people were trying to choke you out? I see. No, these are drawings of your kid.
Yeah.
Your kids have drawn some of these aliens.
Yeah, some of the. We're a family studio, and we mean it. So yeah, if you go on the page, there's some drawings that my son did, and we literally took those and made them into aliens. One of them's a frog with gunslinger frog riding a surfboard. There's a lot of funky things to check out.
All right. Well, Max, I appreciate you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jerry. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah. And I'm going to stop recording here. All right. So that was my interview with Max. It was nice. Max is a nice guy. I hope you enjoyed it. Enrique, close us out.
Is he nice? Do you know him personally? You don't know if he's nice. You don't know his personal life.
He looked nice. I stalked him on Facebook to make sure he looked nice. I would not have some.
What do you mean he looks nice?
I wouldn't have some degen on the podcast. He's attractive. He's an attractive man.
Well, does he have hair?
No.
He's bald?
But he's one of those like Bruce Willis sexy bald.
Like me. Check out the 3XL Sir Meeple shirts for Board Game Snobs.
You couldn't buy a medium, I noticed on that website. That's very telling.
The
Very
board
telling.
gaming community is made of some
All
large
right,
folks.
all right. Let's end this. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh,
Enrique. All right.
Shutting it
All right,
down.
ladies and gentlemen.
All right. So until next time, I'm Gabby.
Yeah, this is Jerry.
This is a
Thank you for listening to the Board Game Snobs. Stay classy.